8 have all advanced. We're now joined by Kris Gardner, covers the University of Houston. Kris joined us back earlier in the Big 12 season about the Cougars on 365 Sports. Kris, thank you very much. How much do you feel like from Saturday, no matter how that ended, the extra, not just day, but almost 5 or 6 days since they played to get this team healthy?
Oh, wow, Smokey. I mean, a huge benefit to the Cougs. And Sunday, Coach Sampson touched on it before they had the private party. Some of the other staffers are like, boy, we're hoping we get picked up on Friday because the days off can really help the players because they're so banged up and injured and guys are out. But there's a chance one of their injured players might play at some point this tournament, Ramon Walker.
Yeah, what is the injury status overall? Is it going to be? Are they white knuckling it until tomorrow?
Juwan Roberts will play. His, barring some setback in practice today or yesterday, his shin, the bruised shin, should be good to go. The knee swelling, he's dealt with it all season basically, but he'll be good to go and give it what he has. And then other guys like Terrence Arsenault, out for the season since December. Tugler out for the season. There's a guy like that. They're done. They're not coming back. But there is a chance that Ramon Walker will play, and he could help up front with rebounding and toughness.
Yeah, the Roberts thing, and you say he's going to play, which is great because he's, just an amazing player. Plus the fact that he gives them what they need inside, and he's a great passer, really good on defense. Left-handed, I think, because that kind of creates sometimes a matchup issue. So for Houston to not just win tomorrow, and they're expected to, but for Houston to run and let's just say get to the second weekend without getting ahead of ourselves, for them to get to the Sweet 16, which they're favored to do, what must they do better than perhaps in the last, even though they had a nice long streak in the last 2 to 5 games?
Rebound better. That has been the biggest, slide with the injuries up front. They're no longer the dominating rebounding team that they were before the injuries. So rebound better, and they'll need consistency. Good play from Xavier Francis, their starting center. When he plays very well, they're that much better. When he struggles because of the lack of depth up front, it's a big blow.
Kris, what do you think of the draw that they got in that they're going to get either a red-hot Nebraska team or a red-hot A&M team in the second round?
It's not ideal. When the Cougs faced the Aggies in December in the one-day event in Houston, Wade Wilson went off, and he got the better of Jamal Shead that day, even though Jamal blocked his shot, I think, twice. He still scored like 25, 30 points in the second half. It was amazing to see in person. But so the explosive, and Nebraska shoots well from 3 as well. So that's going to be a tough matchup, second-round matchup that I think Coug fans are kind of concerned about it from an Aggies. If the Aggies win the game, they're kind of concerned because they may not know as much about Nebraska. I think it's going to be a tough matchup either way for the Cougs.
I love watching the game in Waco, which we had you on, I think, maybe the week before that game that they had the huge lead, and then Baylor came back, and then, of course, overtime and more. In your opinion, is there a moment or two among this great run that you remember the most as kind of a, what's the word? I don't know about difference maker, but that gave this team a shot of adrenaline?
Oh, let's see. Jamal, he's got to be involved. Jamal Shead, probably. Wow, either the game in Austin or the game in Waco. Because Jamal almost beat Baylor at the buzzer.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he took the shot and made it was like, this team is special, even though the shot didn't count by just a millisecond. But Coach Sampson wants the ball in Jamal's hands those final seconds. When Houston lost to TCU in Fort Worth earlier in conference play, Damian Dunn just did not follow the program. Okay, he did not get the ball to Jamal Shead in time. And Coach Sampson's right there. That is not going to happen the rest of this season. Final seconds of the game, I want the ball in Jamal Shead's hands. And he wants Jamal, instead of settling for outside shot, pull-up kind of shot, attack the basket and get into the paint, and then we'll see what happens offensively for the team.
Kris, this team has been, we talked about this last night, this team has been built on deep postseason runs. Is there a sense when they get started that there's maybe less nerves around the team because the coaches, even the players that have transferred in, like LG Cryer's done this before. A lot of these guys have been there and done that. So the early part of this where there's jitters is not necessarily there for them like it would be for a lot of teams.
Yes. They expect to win. It's part of the culture that Coach Sampson and the staff have created these last few years, especially getting to the tournament and making deep runs. And ironically, to show you how far the program has come, last season's team losing in a regional semifinal, the Sweet 16 round, everybody thought it was a disappointment because that team had more talent than previous Houston teams, but did not get as far as folks expected them to. That's what Coach Sampson has helped create. This year's team, if they were healthy, they'd have an even better chance to get to the Final Four. If they're not as healthy, they're going to just do the best they can with what they got.
Tell us something about Jamal Shead besides what we already know.
He and LJ Cryer have been friends since they were 10 years old. And LJ Cryer used to light up Jamal on the court when they were 10 years old.
Yeah, LJ. Now, you talk about a guy that put up some points when he was in high school. Not just that he scored, but he was a hell of a player. And, of course, he was good for Baylor, too. And so there's that connection as well about when he decided to go back home, but also the relationship with his buddy in Jamal Shead.
Yes. And I did not know about how long they've been friends until they told me at the media day for the conference, Big 12 conference in Kansas City.
Kris, LJ has been what they needed. I think, a lot of fans want him to light it up more than he does, but how did they tweak his defense, which was a problem, not because he wasn't willing, but he's not a big dude. So he's got matchup issues when it comes to defense. And when they put longer guards on him in the past when he was at Baylor, it was just kind of a wrap for him. How has Kelvin Sampson built around that and dealt with that issue?
A lot of practices, a lot of running the court for LJ early on in practice sessions when he wasn't competing, because that's one thing Coach Sampson, he wants his players to compete. He's not going to allow excuses to be made about you're not tall enough, you don't have this, you are a Houston Cougar, you will compete in practice. And if he didn't do things correctly, he'd have to run and run and run and run and run until he began to compete and began to figure out defensively. And that's what's helped him be a better player on defense for sure.
All right, so Longwood, 21-13, whatever their record is, they made the run. They're in the tournament. That's what is so much fun about these first couple of days. There hasn't been the shocking upset, but Duquesne did beat BYU. Houston's favored to win by whatever they want, but it's still, that's why you play the games. What about Longwood? How much do you know about them? What if they do something well? What is that they do well?
They are a veteran team, just like Houston is without Tugler as well being out for the season. Longwood is experienced. They're starting basically all upperclassmen, and they out-rebound their opponents by 9 a game. So that could be a factor for the Cougs if it's kind of even on the boards, because then you're going to have to rely on Houston to get semi-hot, lukewarm from outside, with Emmanuel Sharp knocking down threes to help LJ Cryer make threes as well.
One more thing, and Kelvin Sampson, because we've watched him, and they played Baylor the year Baylor made the run to win the national title when LJ was on that team, and in a part of that rotation, they expected to win. They knew they were good going into a new conference, although the Big 12 obviously is very deep, but Houston plays anybody, pretty much anywhere, anytime. How much, not from Sampson, and probably not from any of the players, but was there a little bit of that nervous energy when they started 0-2 with that, this is different?
Oh, from the fans. Definitely, Smokey. Oh, no question. Those first 2 losses, oh, gosh. Oh, the sky's falling. Oh, my gosh. What have we gotten ourselves into? The Cougs not as good as we thought. And I had to, because I spent a lot of time with the coaches and the staff and stuff. I had to calm folks down. It's going to be okay. This is life in the Big 12. It's not a surprise. I'll say this. Coach Sampson has said it even in some media sessions. If you would have told coach and the staff that they would win the Big 12 and only lose 3 games in conference play, they'd have thought you were smoking something.
Mm-hmm. Like some
No
heavy,
way they
smoking
thought that.
some heavy duty stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I said all year, like the only difference between Houston, like going in, the only thing Houston's going to experience that's different is that they'll lose more games this year, and they didn't do that.
They didn't. Yeah.
But they're still going to be good. They'll just lose a couple more games because instead of playing Temple, you're going to be playing Texas Tech. They didn't do that.
No.
It's been remarkable.
Yep.
It has. I thought they lose 5 or 6 times in conference play.
Well, most people do. Most humans do. I mean, like even with a KU or Baylor when they won it all, they'd like maybe lose 2 or 3 games. But that's just because and you know this, there were a few times when they could have burped, and then all of a sudden they have 5 or 6 losses, but they were able to make it happen, like blowing the lead on the road in that environment at the Foster Pavilion, but yet in overtime getting it all back together and winning. That's a couple of pair right there. Shead hitting that one rebound that came off the rim and throwing it up and making the shot at the buzzer. That's how they are. That's who they are. Look forward to it. Houston Roundball Review. You can get all you want from Kris M. Gardner at the HR Review. It's a great follow. Follow him. He covers Houston like nobody else. And thanks for your time, buddy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Kris
You guys
Gardner.
take care.
Houston Roundball Review. By the way,